What's up, everyone? I'm Julian, and this is the Inside Scoop podcast. I hope you're doing well. This is take 4. I, I know you guys aren't going to be able to tell, but this is take 4. I have been interrupted 3 times in the recording process, but it is what it is. I just want to start, however, with a special thanks to everyone who has been supporting and giving my podcast a listen so far. If it's been every episode or even just a few minutes, I just want to show and tell you guys that I'm really appreciative of everyone who has been watching so far and, again, giving me your attention and your support. With that being said, let's get into my Week 3 preview of the college football season. We're also going to discuss a little bit about my fantasy Week 1 recap for fantasy football. That is, however, primarily in the NFL. A little bit of a mic adjustment there. I hope. That's better. That is much better. Okay, so Week 1 for fantasy football. So I went 1-2. I was okay with that performance. I'm in 3 leagues. The league I won in, my friend Karina, shout out to you, Karina. I know sometimes she listens. She invited me to her league. It's a free league, and I had a big Week 1 performance. I think I had the highest score of the weekend, thanks to Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara. I had the Cowboys defense. I had Joe Mixon as well. I had a really, really big week. So I was happy to come up with the win. My other 2 leagues are my more serious leagues because I have money invested in those. And, you want to win because you can make the playoffs. And, I would say that's, what you want to do because you can win money at the end. And I had a tough week. My one buddies league, which is the Highland Park League. We've been doing this for over a decade now. It's basically me and a bunch of other guys from the Highland Park neighborhood in St. Paul. So if you're local, you'll know where that is. And I had a tough loss. My weekend was okay. My players, no one really popped off for me. I had a few duds. Like Amari Cooper had a midweek. Travis Kelce didn't do well. But then I had some guys do okay. Like I had Malik Neighbors did okay. Jerome Ford had a pretty big week for me. Jalen Hurts did okay. He just kept turning the ball over. He had like 2 picks and a fumble. But plus the opponent I went up against had a pretty good week, led by Jaden Reed with 33 points from the Green Bay Packers. So that was an L. And then my other league, I had the second most points, but I still lost because I had to play my friend Andrew, and he had the most points in the league. So, of course, with my luck, I'm like, so disappointing. So second most points in the league, but still with an L. And I'm not off to a great start. I had Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid go last night in the Thursday night game for the NFL, and they combined for 15 points. And that is my starting quarterback and tight end. So I'm going to need my running backs and receivers to have another big week. That being said, let's get into now some college football, as that was just my little Week 1 recap for NFL fantasy. So let's start with Minnesota football, the Gophers and the Tommies. Both teams have now a 3rd week in a row of home field games. Let's start with the Gophers. So they're 1-1. They take on the 1-2 Nevada at home at Huntington Bank Stadium. I think the Gophers are going to be favored in this one. They looked a lot better against FCS Rhode Island last week. 48-0 win. It was great. Max Brosmer looks more comfortable. Darius Taylor returned in the backfield. It was a good week to be a Gopher fan. And now you take on a much tougher opponent in Nevada, coming out of the Mountain West. Nevada is, in my opinion, a well-balanced team offensively and defensively, and I'm giving the Gophers a little tough love here, but I think they should be the favorite. They are minus 16.5 points on the spread. However, I'm not convinced if the Gophers are going to win by 3 positions. Nevada, although they are on the road, they are, again, a good team overall. And the Gophers, I'm just not convinced are all that great. So for them to be, expecting a win for 17 points or more, that's a little far-fetched in my books. Again, if I was betting money line, I would definitely bet Gophers on this one. But I think Nevada, they can make it a close game for sure. We'll be paying attention tomorrow for the Gophers. Now let's get into the St. Thomas Tommies. We'll go a little bit more in depth with that one. So, for the first time in the Glenn Caruso era, they start out 0-2 on the season, dropping 2 home losses to Sioux Falls and Northern Iowa. It felt a little weird writing the team records next to all my team names and then writing 0-2 next to St. Thomas. Usually they're going to start out 2-0 or maybe 1-1 on the year. So yeah, it was a little weird processing and writing that down. St. Thomas, they play South Dakota Black Hills State out of South Dakota. 1-0 on the season, a Division II team. If you asked me this question, who do I think is going to win 4 weeks ago, I would say, the Tommies for sure. And unfortunately, based off the way they've played and Black Hills State being a team that came within 10 points of them a season ago, now that they have a little bit more experience on their end, and St. Thomas has lost a handful of key players from their previous season's team, I think this could be a close game. I think right now I'm a little concerned about the St. Thomas offense. And when I look at their team on paper, I look and I'm like, well, what's there to be concerned about? You have now a 4th-year starter at running back, Hope Adebayo, another experienced running back out of the backfield, Gabe Abel. You have an experienced wide receiver core led by senior Jacob Wildermuth. A very experienced and big and strong offensive line. I think one of the better ones in the country for FCS football. And then, you got a quarterback who spent a lot of time playing a season ago. And I'm just a little concerned, what's not working well? What's not meshing together? In 2 weeks, the St. Thomas Tommies have 2 total offensive touchdowns, 1 in each game. They had a 3rd touchdown, a defensive touchdown, week 1 against Sioux Falls. But last week, they were held to just 10 points, a touchdown and a field goal. I'm not sure what it is, what's going on. I think they're gonna need to change something. I think at this point, right? Because you cannot average a touchdown a game offensively and expect to have a winning record. And you can't, the defense can only do so much. They're not the Iowa Hawkeyes where, you could expect them to win you the game. That's just not the reality. They're not, they're Southern neighbors. And that's what I'm a little concerned about is the offense. Defensively, I'm not too worried. They bring back plenty of experience, on all, the defensive backs, the linebackers, the defensive line. Special teams is solid as well. I just think offensively they're going to need to change something, get something more going. I think it starts with, unfortunately, the lack of experience at the quarterback spot. Two true sophomores, for 1 and 2 on the depth chart for the quarterbacks. And I think it's difficult for asking a player who was just playing high school football a couple of years ago and then, now to lead a Division I football team to a winning record. I think that's difficult. I think it's showing, so far in their first couple weeks. When I look at St. Thomas's best year in Division I, they were 10-1 in 2022. Although they had a Division III quarterback, he was experienced. He was, I think, a 5th-year senior, and he actually ended up having probably the best year a quarterback has ever had in the Division I era for St. Thomas. And I just think right now, the quarterback situation is still kind of not really working out for them. And statistically, they seemed to be okay a week ago against UNI. I just don't think they were able to really get in the end zone, which is an issue. You can put up all the offensive yards you want, but as long as you're not scoring, you're not going to win games. Overall, I think this should be a fun one, but it's not going to be an easy one. I think Black Hill State's going to go into St. Paul thinking, we've got a opening win. We're going against a team that we were within 10 points of a year ago. We've gotten better. They have lost some experience and some talent, and they're 0-2 at home this year. So they're going to go and try to take this win. I think if you're St. Thomas, you got to play your game, get in the end zone, score touchdowns, hold them as much as you can defensively, and stay disciplined. And I know they're a very disciplined team, and if they can do that, mesh the offense together, they will come away with a win on Saturday. Now let's head into the rest of the country for college football, starting with Kansas State. They take on Arizona tonight on Friday, the 13th. Jason Voorhees. I don't know why it just popped into my head. I was I miss watching the Friday the 13th movies. Sometimes I would watch that with my girlfriend, but they're very repetitive. It's just a group of teenagers who goes to a cabin on a lake, and Jason is out there to get them. That's all it is. But I kind of like those movies. Anyway, Friday the 13th, Kansas State, one of the best teams in the Big 12. I mean, this is a huge battle for the Big 12. Arizona offensively looks great. Kansas State coming off of a big win at Tulane a week ago. I'm a fan of both quarterbacks. Avery Johnson's off to a good start. Noah Fafita, with him and McMillan at wide receiver. I mean, they had a tremendous week one home opener. Now they're on the road. We'll see what happens. A lot of people like Kansas State to win the Big 12 this year now that Utah is a little bit more at level with them. I had Utah as a top 10 team, and they've played well. I know there's the hand injury to Cam Rising, who has played impressively to start the season. I don't know what his injury outlook is and if he's going to be playing tomorrow. But without him, they are a good team, but they are not nearly as good as they could be without Cam Rising. Anyway, Kansas State has home field advantage. That matters a lot. If I got to go predict a game or predict a win, I would definitely choose Kansas State tonight. However, the offense of Arizona, don't let them get away from you. It could be a fun, high-scoring affair. Now we're going to go to number 4, Alabama, the Crimson Tide, as they take on the Wisconsin Badgers in Madison, Wisconsin tomorrow. The Fox Big Noon game. I am so excited to watch them. Big Red versus Big Red. Alabama's a are they minus 16 point favorite or minus 14? I mean, they're projected to win by 2 touchdowns. I know that, and I could see it. Both teams are 2-0. Wisconsin, I know their receiving votes to be top 25. I'm not sure if they are quite that yet. I was a little disappointed that College Gameday won't be in Madison tomorrow. They're going to be in South Carolina for the LSU game. And I'm like, if you're really going to start off the season with the SEC and that's what you're going to start with, South Carolina at LSU, I don't know if I really like that one. Anyway, back to Madison. I think it could be a possible repeat from last weekend as Texas out of the SEC came up to Michigan and Ann Arbor and just whooped their ass. It's possible. I think Jalen Milroe can go off. And with his rushing ability, and then you have now just Alabama, just as a whole, such a good team offensively and defensively. I'm really excited to see how that Ryan Williams is going to do at wide receiver. He's kind of like the other freshman phenom besides him and Jeremiah Smith at wide receiver this year. He's had some impressive performances through his first 2 weeks. Alabama, I definitely would project them to win. Honestly, if I were to bet on the spread, I would take Alabama minus 14 or minus 16, whatever it is. I probably should write that down, shouldn't I? But yeah, Alabama, they're going to win. They're going to beat the Badgers. Can't wait to watch and witness that go down. College Game Day, well, number 16 LSU, 1-1, takes on the 2-0 South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm excited for this one. I mean, I think it should be a good game. South Carolina, entering the season, I thought was going to be on the bottom of the SEC, and you know what? 2-0, they have a win against Kentucky. Last weekend, a pretty big one too. They beat them by 31-9? I want to say was the score. They had a pretty good one. As for LSU, I'm not too convinced. They're minus 7.5 point favorites. They have a home loss to USC, and then last week they beat an FCS program, Nichols, at home by 20. But it was a close game for a decent portion of that game, and now LSU goes on the road to a confident Gamecock team. I think we're in for a good battle. I definitely think South Carolina could pull off with a win. If they do you rank the Gamecocks? If LSU were to lose this game, you definitely have to unrank them, right? Because I even kind of think that it's questionable if they should even be top 20, and at 16 is a little high for me. But if they can go to LSU, or if LSU can go to South Carolina and pull off with a win, I think they deserve to be ranked, obviously. But if they lose this one, I think you not only have to unrank LSU, but you might have to really strongly consider putting the Gamecocks inside the top 25. The other match or game I'm really looking forward to, Boston College, number 24 in the country, against number 6 Missouri. Missouri seems really high at 6, don't they? But then it's like you look at the teams behind them, Tennessee, Penn State, Miami, Oregon, USC. I'm kind of like, well, Missouri's better than all of them, and the teams ahead of them. Ole Miss, okay, they're a step ahead. Alabama's a step ahead. Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, not in that order. But those 5 teams, I would say, yeah, so are a little bit better than Missouri. I think they're rightfully placed at 6. Again, it seems a little high. Like, my preseason ranking of them, I think, was 9 or 8. But Missouri, they have a tough battle. I mean, their defense has looked great through their first 2 weeks. They haven't allowed a single point. Now you go up against Thomas Castellanos at quarterback, who had a big win at Florida State a couple weeks ago, a very good dual threat quarterback. They also have a good running back as well, and they seem to run efficiently. I think they're definitely going to put up a score on Missouri this week. However, Missouri at home, although I think Boston College is a good team, I think Missouri is just going to outlast them. It should be a fun one. I'm really looking forward to it. However, I don't think it's nationally broadcasted anywhere. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be on Fox, or it's not going to be on ABC or any of those channels. It probably would be on the SEC network, which unfortunately I don't get, but it'll be a fun one to follow. And then the last one, Oregon at Oregon State, the battle of the state of Oregon. So Oregon, originally I was like, okay, they'll probably get a pretty big win here. Now that Oregon has, doesn't know how to play defense through their first 2 weeks on the road against 2-0 Beavers, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Oregon is going to be the favorite. They should win, right? They have possibly the best offense in the country. But something needs to change about their defense, and I've mentioned this in my previous episode. If they can tackle and if they can, prevent the Beavers from, scoring as much as Boise State and Idaho has scored against them, and then as long as their offense can keep going, they're going to win. However, this is going to be their toughest game yet. It was a gimme against Idaho, and they won by 10. They should have beaten Boise State by a lot more, and they only beat them by 3. Now it's like, okay, you're not at home field anymore. You're going to have the crowd against you. Even though I'd imagine there'll still be a decent amount of green there since it's an in-state rivalry. But the Ducks, this is their biggest test yet. And I think if they want to stay inside the top 10, not only are they going to have to beat Oregon State on the road, but they're going to have to beat them by a decent margin of at least a touchdown or more, I would say. Overall, that's my take on this Week 3 preview. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of great matchups that I really wanted to discuss. Next week, we'll go over the Week 3 recap. And then following Friday, I've got a very special guest coming on, and we're going to discuss a lot of college football. Super excited for that one. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching wherever you get your podcasts. We're still working on it to get on Apple Podcasts. They've been mean and not wanting me to set up an account. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you have a blessed day and a blessed weekend, and I will talk to you all later.